Welcome, folks. Welcome, one and all, to Javi Unboxed episode number. I think we're at 10, and let me give a little shout out to all the gang that's out there. Good evening, David Jones, who's out there. Al from Al Forte from Kilroy's Odessa Woodworking and Maker Shop. Time to either get a better prescription or increase the size of my type. Uh, Dennis
Don't be
Mills, good to
wearing
see you.
Elton John glasses.
Oh God, no. Ashley, how are you? Steve Nealon from Harneal Media. Ed Newman, Kevin Wilkerson from Philadelphia. Always make sure to say from Philadelphia. He's Kevin from Philadelphia. Marcello, good to see you. Gary Hammett from Wood Creations, and Andrew Haig. Oh my God. Okay, so before I get to your introduction, Russ, I'd like to give a personal shout out to Mr. Andrew Haig, who was here at the property today, with his kids. And if I'm a little bit, if I'm dragging a little or a little bit slow tonight, which I don't know if that's even at all possible for me, but it happens. If I'm a little slow, that's because I am still exhausted from up and down and up and down and up and down the bamboo hill, carrying. I mean, I was most of the time I was down there chopping and feeding him over to Andrew. Andrew was the one that was, and now I know how that man stays so incredibly thin. I mean, yeah, he's got energy to burn. He was up and down and up and down. We burned probably 4/5 of the pile that I had taken close to a month to accumulate, and
Wow.
little by little, I still have maybe a quarter acre of bamboo left. So that's not bad considering I had 1 acre to begin with. But it's time consuming. But we had a good time out there. So again, I'd like to thank Andrew and his kids. We had a good old time there. With some exercise. Oh, and you guys, if you're anywhere in the Central Florida area, at the turn of the month, by all means, contact me, and I'll be happy to offer you a wonderful bout of exercise because we got plenty to spare around here, and I haven't begun. The house yet. So in about a year's time. I mean, I have bamboo exercise now, and I have chopping trees exercise. Not chopping trees, but clearing brush exercise. Pretty soon, in about a year's time, after I finish the house, I'm going to have 4,000 square feet of laying paver exercise. So, for all you guys who, want to do some weights, a few thousand at a time, a day. Well, yeah, Andrew says he's ready for a nap. Evening, Mako. Good to see you. And yes. Well, thank you very much. The kids were impressed with my burgers. Well, I you don't get this big by cooking poorly. So I like to pride myself on my on the taste. And let's give the ball over here so you can introduce yourself, Mr. Russ Meadows, my cohort in crime.
Hey, everybody. Russ Meadows from the Rusty Nails Wood Shop. You got to put that Z on it or you don't find me.
There you go. And so, again, folks, thanks for dropping in. Tonight's chat is going to be an interesting one. For those of you, mostly educational. By the way, let me put a plug in for next week. Next week, we're going to go full blown CNC, and I'm going to be doing some Vectric training. And I'll be referring a lot to Mark Lindsay because Mark and I have two completely different styles and that seem to complement each other. So you'll either like one or the other or both. So by all means, the more you know. It's a beautiful thing. So
Well,
I'll be.
before you get started on that, let me interrupt you for a minute and ask the chat what your screen is looking like to them because you're still blurry to me.
Yeah, am I blurry, folks? Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, let me know if I'm blurry because I don't see it blurry from here. But if so, that's my internet, and then I'm gonna swap over to the phone to hopefully get a better signal. So let me
Yeah,
know
it
because
could be entirely my end. I'm not sure. But I want to make sure what y'all see.
on my end I see everybody clear. But so let me know, folks. Blurry. Okay, so let me work on that real fast. Um,
Hobby is
this
low res.
this will be a quick fix. We hope. Let me see here. I may blink out for a second, folks, but I will be shortly
Bill
on
Stopper says you're very
thereafter.
blurry. Yeah,
Yeah, I'll get
everybody's
there.
going
We'll
blurry.
fix it.
Good. I'm not the only
Yeah,
one.
good, good. What I should be clear in a moment, and then you guys will be sorry that you. But okay.
For one of those burgers, I'll say you look beautiful. If I got to come down there and work, I want one of those Brazilian steaks. Well, geez, folks, he left us. Yeah, Greg. We'll lose it for a minute. Yeah, he should come back pretty quick. Argentine steak. Well, he's got this Brazilian steakhouse down in Miami where he takes his clients. He has to smooth,
Stand
and I
by.
want one of those steaks.
Don't know if it's fixed it yet, but I'm about to pull a.
Well, is he froze for everybody else?
There we go. Hopefully.
Oh, sweet,
Better?
better.
Alrighty.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hitch and I were talking about the Brazilian steakhouse that you're going to take me to when I do any work for you.
Hey, oh, I can do that. Hey,
And I don't want a salad.
hey. A day's work is, well, let me see. A day's, let me. It depends. If you do more than a day's labor that I pay at $6.50 an hour,
Lord have mercy. I have to put in 24 hours to get a steak out of you.
there you go. Hey, hey, the well
Everybody
off
says
don't
it's
stay
better.
well off by throwing stuff away. I mean,
Everybody says it's better.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so folks, let me share with you a few thoughts and a little bit of information on insulation. Now we're talking home insulation, and we'll move on to how that relates to CNC later in the show. But home insulation. Now, first of all, most of you are aware that your electric bill is composed of probably for most of you. I mean, there are those who live in temperate climates and are very comfortable and have a very low fuel bill, very low electric bill because you don't use the AC at all or you use it very little. But for most of us, and I mean, worse in Miami, but here it's a little better, but still, the AC or the heater or heating fuel, I will say, as opposed to heating electric. But the AC composes 60% to 75%, if you can believe it, is your air conditioning. Try shutting up here. Perfect example in the property. I had 1 month. I had the AC on in the container and the AC on in the RV for the full 2 weeks that I was here, or the full week that I was here. My electric bill was $150. Okay. On a cool month, no AC. There was no. I mean, what am I running? I'm running a computer here. I'm not, and some lights. And the lights are on all the time. They're LEDs, but they're on all the time. $17. Right? There's a big difference between $17 and $150. Okay? So now, granted, this particular case, the air conditioner, it happens to be 2 window units, which are the least efficient is all. And we'll talk about air conditioning efficiency in a little bit because that'll save you a lot of money. In case you guys were unaware of the technical aspects, I'll show you how to. I'll talk about how to convert BTUs to using your SEER rating. How to convert BTUs, amperage, yada 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 to dollars. But so here we go. Hey, Bobby, how's it going? Good evening. Bill, good to see you. So, what happens? Let's talk first about insulation. Because clearly, if the air conditioner is working less than or the heater is working less, you're going to save money. That's a given. Let's talk about heat transfer. There are 3 different ways that heat is transferred. Now, I'm going to relate this to Miami weather, to the summer. So it's hot outside. It's you want to keep the AC on or cool inside. You don't want the heat, the heat loss. You don't want the heat gain, I should say, because heat loss is cold. You don't want heat gain in your house. Heat transfers cold to hot. It's weird, but that's the way it is.
You're going off again. Is anybody else here?
Yeah, hang on. Let me.
You're choppy and you're blurry again. Itch. blocking the electrical power, the clouds going over. Oh, that's funny. Who's your mic? Huh? How you doing, buddy?
Tried to put the phone in a better location. I don't know if that helped.
It's better right now.
Excellent. So, welcome. Who's your mic? Okay, so what we were saying is there's 3 types of ways that heat will transfer from one place to another. Convection, and radiant heating. Okay, now, a lot of people get very, very confused with all these. I'm blinking in and out, ain't I?
Yeah, you're choppy as all heck right now. Your audio is choppy.
Let me see if. Let me cut off a couple of. I don't know if that helps, but turn off my my stream. I could see the stream on this thing. So, hey Hitch, how's it going? All right, so I didn't see Hitch until I turned the other screen, which shows me the Facebook people too. All right, so let me continue. So, convection. Convection deals with the transfer of heat through the air, through basically cold air to hot air to cold air, that kind of thing. So convection happens when cold air from the hot air from the outside seeps in through cracks or whatever. How do you get rid of convection? Piece of cake. Seal it up with plastic. Nothing more. We're not talking about conduction or radiant heating. We're talking. Should I switch to Russ? Can you hear me? Oh yeah, you just muted. Or did you? Folks, am I still on? I just want to check here. I think we might have to go with the blurry. Let me try this for a second. I'm trying a different internet. See if I can. Stand by.
What happened, folks? He's hung up again? I'm back, Bobby. What'd y'all do to Javi? Frozen in Miami. He's at the property right now. He's not in Miami. Mike, I turned the camera off and the microphone off while I went to help my wife haul some stuff out of the truck and back into the house. What's going on, David? Are you working? His new magic trick are on the blink. Oh. He's having a heck of a time. His internet service out there is not very fast, and there's nothing they can do about it. Taking over the show. No, thank you, buddy. I'm here to be eye candy. Ha! He doesn't pay me to talk. He just pays me to sit over here and look good. Of course, then I get that old saying, well, you're not doing a good job of that either. All right, Herb. I only can talk when he's not here. And you know this. Yeah, it's live broadcasting is tough. Yeah, it is, especially when you don't have a script in front of you. Tell us what you're working on. Nah, I'm actually in the process of doing a couple of things. I'm actually designing a console cover, and I don't have it in here. But a friend of mine bought a Nissan, full-size Nissan pickup truck, and all nice and beautiful and stuff, but it has a console that didn't have a cover on it. So you reach your hand down in there, it's fairly deep. And so I've designed him a cover for it so he can put a cup holder in it, and it's got Nissan Titan on it and all that. And so I've designed that. Now I'm designing one that will actually have a hinge on it and will be able to open up and still stay in one spot with the Titan on it and a phone jack, not jack, but a holder. Hello, Steve. No, Hitch, I never was in a band back in the day. No, I just always have like long hair. Can't help it. That's just in me. Bass player, huh? Oh, I love the old, but I'm a classic rock and roller. I'm not really into the country. I know some country because my family was country, but I rebelled. I'm a classic rock and roller. So I really like the old rock and roll. Yeah, but oh, Bobby, I've got I don't know how much stuff to do. Yeah, that squeaking dog is on my nerve. He's got my last nerve, I think. He likes to do that.
Stand by, folks. I'm on the phone, actually.
Well, you're looking better now than you were a while ago.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, let me see if see, I can't bring this over to the other side because I'll lose.
Like you just did. Here's Javi. Sounds like a Stephen King movie. Yeah, he's actually still there, but he ain't doing much. Well, folks, it was a nice show. I'm glad to see y'all. And he was really going to get into some serious insulation. Wow. Tropical storm Gamma. Now, see, that's the storm that my wife couldn't remember. Could not remember the name of which one was attacking Florida. That's Gamma. Okay, I got it now. Thanks for that.
I'll be right there. I'm rebooting the computer here.
Okie dokie. Ray Jones from Dickinson, Texas. Ray Jones, you're not that far from me. You're down south of Galveston, right around the Galveston area. I'm in Beaumont, or Needleton, as the case may be. Well, Herb, I'm glad you did the dishes. Did your wife make you do them?
Let me see if I put this way up here and see if
Enjoy, David, and go watch your football. Enjoy it. Yeah, he's back.
Are
you on top of the container? Where are you at?
All right. I am actually hanging the phone up high by the container. I mean, on the let's see. As you see, I'm in the container. By the way, it's almost all cleared out.
Yeah.
This is the other end. This is the other end of the container with a net. I'm hanging it right there, so I don't lose signal. Because anytime I'm inside the container, I lose signal.
Yeah.
So, and Kevin, I don't know. And I'm rebooting the computer because I'm hoping I get a better signal from the local internet. We'll see whether that happens or not.
Well, say hello to Kevin Ailes while you're still there.
Hey, Kevin, good to see you, or sort of see you. Be
Yeah,
right back.
Herb knows where it's at. His wife said, "Get them dishes done. You better do them." You're going to Beaumont or Fort Myers? I would have chose Fort Myers myself, Hitch. Actually, my wife and I, when we got married, we did a about a 9-day jaunt through Florida. We went down to Captiva Island and stayed there for a few days, and then made our way all the way across the state, all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, and then come up there and then through I-10 all the way back home. We took about 9 days riding all over the state of Florida. I was born there myself. I was born in Jacksonville, but I was just a little chap, so I don't remember much about it. But I got relatives all over the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a transplanted Texan from Florida, and a lot of times I sound Cajun because I live next to Louisiana, and it's crazy. If I get around a bunch of Cajuns, you'll not believe my voice will be just like them. Yeah, I think you made the right choice. Fort Myers, way better than coming to Beaumont. Better water too. You're on the good side of the.
Well, I don't know if this will work, but let's
Yeah, crawdad.
at least it'll be blurry, guys. But so I think.
It is a little, but as long as
Yeah.
it doesn't stop, I guess it's okay.
Yeah.
Dave,
So like,
Dave just
so
joined us. Big D.
hey, Big D, how's it going? All right. So to continue, before my internet rudely interrupted me. All
Well,
right.
make it
So
quick. You got a half an hour.
piece of cake. I'm kind of glad it happened then because I only need half an hour of material. No. All right. So here's what happens again. We have three. I'll talk faster. We have three different ways that heat is transferred. One is convection, one is conduction, one is radiant heating. So convection, if you seal up your entire house with a plastic wrap so no air goes in and out, then there will be no heat transfer through convection. If the air inside is isolated from the air outside, convection does not happen. So it will happen one of two other ways: radiant heating or conduction. Conduction is easy. So whereas convection is the air, conduction is the transfer of through two things touching. If you put your hand over a stovetop, it's radiating heat. It's not conduction. You touch the stovetop, aside from getting major third-degree burns, that is an example of conduction.
Conduction.
Now, it depends on how conductive a material is. For instance, aluminum, extremely conductive. You know, you wrap a piece of ice in aluminum and then hold it. You know, however, wrap a piece of ice in aluminum and put your hand away from it, you won't feel the cold. So, it's extremely conductive. Insulation, depending on the insulation, works against conduction. That's what it's trying to do. Then there's radiant heating. Radiant heating is through radiation. The heat radiates through the air. Not to be confused with convection, where it's the actual temperature of the air that you know, you move the air from one place to another, and now that temperature is here instead of there, whatever, or affects it. This is radiation. This is The something over here is radiating heat, and it will be received by something over here. Again, it has to be two things, but one has to radiate, one has to receive. The sun radiates a lot of heat. If you've got asphalt shingles, or if you got or a black top, you know how hot that thing gets.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's a little experiment. Put a piece of aluminum, and the reason why I use aluminum will be made apparent in a second. Put a piece of aluminum over a stovetop, and you can put your hand over it. Not a problem. The radiant heating is reflected, most of it, 97% of it. So if it's, let's say, 1,000 degrees, then 970 degrees will be reflected back. 30 degrees will be, well, you know, I'm being extremely liberal with these numbers, but that's the way radiant heating works. So you will notice that some of these pieces of insulation have silver on one side, or rather aluminum. Pure aluminum is 97% reflective. Silver, 98% reflective, and gold, 99% reflective. That's why they use gold foils on the shuttles and stuff like that. It would be ridiculous to layer your house in gold foil, because the savings would not be justified for the cost of the gold, clearly. So, radiant barriers. Let me explain something about radiant barriers. You can't just throw a piece of insulation on top of a piece of another insulation on top of another piece of insulation with radiant barriers and expect this to work. And I'll tell you why. Insulation, think of everything that I explained, and an insulation is meant to slow down conduction by having a bunch of air pockets. Conduction will not pass through little air pockets, sealed air pockets. Conduction and sealed air pockets also works against convection. So insulation, the fluffier it is, the more air pockets it has, the more it's obviously the thicker it is in most cases, but there are different levels. Closed cell as opposed to open cell insulation. Closed cell is a lot more effective than open cell, etc., etc., and both are a lot more effective than regular fiberglass batt insulation. But that being said, that will slow down the conduction. It does not stop it. Pretend this thing was 1 foot thick, and it gets hot here. Well, it'll be hot here. It'll be cooler. It'll cool. It takes time for the heat to transfer through, but eventually it builds up here, and it will, or it just stays at a certain level here, and a certain amount of heat will conduct through just about any material as long as it's touching. Again, depending on the insulation of the material. All right, so radiant heating. Here's what happens. You have a barrier. So if you have a barrier, the heat that's coming from the sun, for instance, will never transfer to this this piece. A certain amount will, obviously, because it's not 100% reflective, but it will not. Now, what happens if you imagine if this had a radiant barrier in the middle? You have basically eliminated the radiant barrier, and this is why. Okay, let's say the sun hits this side. The sun hits this side, it heats all this up. The radiance gets converted to heat. It migrates through conduction, and now it will be reflected back through the radiant barrier. Well, what happens if you touch this radiant barrier? Remember what I said about aluminum. It may be 97% radiant reflective, but it is very conductive. So as soon as you touch it, now you're absorbing the heat. So if you had a piece of aluminum, a piece of insulation here, and a piece of insulation on the other side, you've just negated all the radiant barrier. I mean, almost all of the radiant barrier, because it will no longer be it will no longer be reflecting 97%. It only reflects it if it doesn't have anything to absorb. See, it will reflect quite a bit of it still, but whatever touches this part will absorb the heat this way. So now you're basically bleeding heat, So, what's the best way to insulate your house? There are many different ways. Speak to an insulation contractor, but what I plan to do with mine, for instance, is take the normal roof asphalt, the paper, the asphalt shingles, the 30 weight paper, plywood, or or whatever, wafer board, whichever, OSB, and then now whatever heat is being absorbed by those shingles is being transferred to your attic. The wood is not 100% insulation, of course. So the wood will get hot. Anybody that's ever been to an attic and touched the bottom of that gets hot. Then at that point, it becomes radiant heat transferring to the bottom of your attic, or conduction through the beams, but radiant heat transferring to the bottom of your attic. So now your attic, the space through convection is completely evening out the heat. The radiation it's radiating off the insulation that you have on your ceiling, over your ceiling, and then eventually it'll get through that drywall. Well, again, depends on how much insulation you have there and how much heat, and et cetera, et cetera. But it does, every one of these factors affects your heating bill. If you put a piece of aluminum, not a piece of aluminum, but they actually sell foil that is it tears, it's as tough as tarp material, but it's 100% aluminum embedded in it. And it's 97% reflective. Atticfoil.com is a good source. There's a bunch of others. And you basically staple that on the underneath part of your roof, and you have essentially reflected back. If you take a heat gun on the outside and you aim it at your roof, and you see it's, say, 120 degrees at the top of the roof, and then you have a piece that you have the radiant barrier on, you're going to see that's about 10, 20, 30 degrees hotter. Don't worry about the roof being hotter. What you don't want is your house to be hotter. The roof can take 200 degrees. They're meant for a lot hotter than that. It's not gonna affect. It's inconsequential, the life of the roof. So I want you to know you are reflecting this back up to the roof, but that can't be avoided. You either do that or you absorb it all. So now you reflected a good portion by just adding a radiant barrier. Now, I said put it right at your roof material. So let's say it's here. What about the trusses? Now the trusses, wherever there is a truss, this is now radiating heat through conduction straight from the roof all the way down through the truss. And then it's not much. So you've helped a considerable amount, because obviously there's, say, 2 foot in between trusses. You've got a good portion covered. But wouldn't it be better if you staple it from truss to truss? And the only thing you're avoiding is the little beams that come down, the cross members. That will help considerably. That's what I plan to do. And you have not only an air barrier beneath it, but you have an air barrier above, which will help for prevent moisture and anything else, as long as you have your soffits and your ridge vent, so your airflow is you're carrying the heat. What heat there is, you're carrying it away. Again, this will considerably, we're talking lowering the attic temperature from 150 degrees to 110. That's how significant this is. And then, of course, you need the insulation on the top of your ceiling, and that's one way. There are others, but I'm just saying, definitely, and then, yeah, shingles are cheap as Hitch put it. But not only that, the reflective radiant barrier. I mean, we're looking at 1,000 feet of that stuff is $200. So if you have let's say a 3,000 square foot home, you're spending $600. You're going to save that in fuel costs. You'll probably save $100 if you're living in Florida. You'll save $100 a week. Now, this is assuming you put it in yourself. You crawl into the attic, you staple, or you have your grandkids do it. Whatever.
Yeah.
But if you have to pay for it, well, then it'll take a couple years to pay it off. But now, that's radiant heating. Now let's talk a little bit about air conditioners. One of the things that I did when I first moved into my house back in 1999, the air conditioner was 3 years old. 3 years old. It was a Train. It was 3 years old. The Train was running. It was running constantly, and that's kind of a goal. You want the ideal situation. Just so you know, a little side note: the ideal situation. You do not want an AC that runs half the time, or what. You want an AC when it's the hottest it could possibly be. You want it to run continuously. Then anything cooler than that, it'll cycle. The reason for that is because that is the proper match for an AC. That way you take out most of the moisture, if not all the not all the moisture. You take out most of the moisture, and then it will be it'll cool more efficiently. If you have something that runs 10 minutes and then an hour and then turns off, you're basically going to be spending a lot of money. Because I know it doesn't seem right. It only runs 10 minutes. Yeah, but the one that runs 10 minutes is going to cost you a lot more in electricity because it's so powerful compared to an hour of practically a little cost.
That's exactly the way I do it. We do ours. It runs continuously. And
Yep.
my mother-in-law shuts hers off. And we told her that the same thing you're saying. We told her that, but she just doesn't get it.
It removes the humidity and thus allows it to condition the air faster, and you feel better.
Right.
Well, you feel hey, I live in Florida. I know about humidity. So
Me too.
now, so let's get back to 1999. I saw that I had a unit that was only 3 years old when I bought the house. Why would anybody in their right mind replace a 3-year-old unit? Well, first of all, the house was 3,300 square feet. It should be a 5-ton unit, if not 6. A 5-ton unit, but I got it's well insulated. 5-ton unit at my house, not 3. This thing was extremely underpowered. But here's the other thing. It was, despite the fact that it was only 3 years old, it was a 10 SEER rating. I bought an 18 SEER rating. Now, let me give you some basic math. SEER, seasonal energy. I forgot what it stands for. It's basically the ratio. You guys can look it up and shoot me a comment in the cap. Seasonal energy something ratio or something. Anyway, it is a ratio between the amperage and the BTU. Okay. The amperage and the tonnage. So, a unit that cools 36,000 BTU in 1 hour and uses 3,600 watts in that hour. And remember, watt hours, we're talking, this has to be, it's by time. So, 3,600 watt hours into 36,000 BTU, 3-ton unit. Each ton is 12,000. I'm sorry if you can scroll back if you need to do these numbers and figure stuff out for yourself. If you have a 10 SEER unit, 10, and it's a 3-ton unit, that means it is, by definition, spending 3,600 watts every hour to cool 36,000 BTU. 36,000 divided by 3,600 equals 10. If there are some 20 SEER units out there, if it's a 20 SEER, 3-ton, to cool that same 3 tons, how much are you using? 1,800 watts. Imagine that. Just upgrading your AC, you went from 3,600 watts per hour to 1,800 watts per hour. Now, if your AC runs for 20 hours, 20 times 18, you're looking at, you've just saved 36,000 watts. Okay, let's do some math. 36,000 watts, let me yank out my calculator. 36,000 watts times 12 cents a kilowatt divided by 1,000, because it's kilowatts. You've just saved $4.32 in one day. 432 times, again, these are the numbers should be taken with a grain of salt, because you're not going to be using, it's not going to be on 20 hours a day for the whole entire month. But if it was $130, you just knocked your electric bill down by what? By switching from a 18 to a 20 SEER. Mm-hmm. That's when you got to start really doing numbers. If you want to go, if you're OCD and you want to go to this extent, how much more will a unit cost me? Well, those 10 SEER units cost $3,000. Well, they cost me $3,000. It'll probably cost you $700 or $7,500 to get it installed, but $3,000, Amazon. And then, but the 20 will cost me $5,000. Okay, difference of $2,000. At $130 a month, average, how long will it take? 2,000 divided by 130, just as an average, in 15 months. In a year and 3 months, you just paid off the unit. No, sorry. You didn't pay off the unit. You paid off the difference between and now you're saving. You want to see how long to pay off the unit? Let's talk $3,000. Sorry, $5,000 divided by $130 a month, which is what you're saving. And this is what happened to me. I looked. It turns out, okay, so it's 38 months, by the way. So in less than in about 3.5 years, a little over 3 years, you've bought a brand new unit. Even if your unit was brand new, and that's exactly what I was looking at. I did all my calculations. I had a 36,000 BT. It was a 3-ton unit. 36,000. I was spending 3,600 watts an hour, and it was on 24/7 during the summer. The new unit is a 5-ton. That's 60,000. 60,000 BTU divided by 18 SEER. Whoa, 3,333 watts. Guess what? A new unit with 2 tons more cooling is cheaper for me to run than my old unit. And guess what? It was only on 50 minutes out of every hour. Bottom line is, and I did the numbers and I crunched the numbers, that first year I saved an average of $70 a month. The unit cost me $3,000 at the time, divided by 70. I had that unit for 20 years, by the way. 42 months. In 42 months, in 3.5 years, it paid for itself. I could throw the old brand new unit away, and guess what? I got $500 from the AC guy from an AC guy I knew for the old unit. It was It was working perfectly. It was just costly. So guys, think about, I know people talk about energy efficiency and all this stuff, and a lot of people don't care. I'm building a new house. I'm going to make sure this thing is sealed. I'm going to make sure it's properly insulated. And I'm not going overboard. I'm not going to get closed cell foam insulation. I can't do it myself. I mean, I could, but I'd have to buy a machine. It would cost me more than to have somebody do it. But to have somebody do it, we're talking a difference of $10,000 more for the size house that I'm building. $15,000. Mm-hmm. $15,000 to $20,000 of difference between bad insulation and closed cell foam. Do you know how much I'd have to save in energy bills to make up 50? No, not worth it. I'll use radiant heating. I can do that myself, cheap. I can use bad insulation. I'll do that myself. It's very inexpensive. It's balance, guys. I talk about it all the time. It's all about balance. So hopefully you got a little bit out of this insulation talk and energy saving talk, and now there are a lot of great videos out there talking about radiant heating. There's a lot of YouTube videos out there where they got the guys with the and I've seen it done live personally with the thermometer, with the infrared thermometer. Even those fancy guns, you could just buy a gun over at Amazon for, what is it, $10 or $20? Yeah, I mean, I got one for the stove. 275 degrees. I don't want to burn my chicken. So, so when you see one of these roofs, and try it out, buy a small piece. In fact, they have free samples at like atticfoil.com. You can get a free sample of this stuff, and they'll give you a little bit. Stick it on your roof. Know exactly inside and outside. Take that little thermometer and see the difference. And you, yeah, if that doesn't convince you, there's no point. Okay, or be lazy and not save money. But frankly, I plan on saving a considerable amount of money. Now, if you happen to have a house that's already insulated, great. Then more power to you. AC and insulation.
Yeah. Hitch says his house powers his car. Has you got an electric car?
He's probably got solar panels on the car, and that's another beautiful thing. You put solar panels on top. You're basically, I mean, forget radiant heating. You've got the solar panels as shade for your roof.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, there's a reason why solar panels are not against the roof. They are, if you'll notice, separated. There is an air gap. Why? Because solar panels act as a radiant barrier. The shade of a tree acts as a radiant barrier. It's absorbing all that sunlight. There's a lot it has to go through. And it doesn't radiate much heat.
Mm-hmm.
So at an old Florida house, hang on a second. Let me just catch up on some of the comments here. Let's see. Okay, frozen. Back when I'm back. Frozen in Central Florida. That is funny, actually, David. There's no such thing as frozen in Central Florida. Well, 1980, when they had when it snowed in Miami. And let's see. So that's what you're working on. I'm catching up, folks. Let's see. And a lot of tropical moisture. That might very well have been it, Hitch. You're absolutely right. I mean, I don't know what. I got to be honest with you. This CenturyLink is probably the worst service on the face of the planet. And to top it all off, they might be decent for some people. Maybe the ones that live next door to complex, but I live pretty far away. And here's the worst part. There are bridge taps. I mean, there are bridges throughout the whole thing. Oh, speaking of bridges, let me talk a little bit before I conclude about thermal bridging. A lot of you may or may not have steel buildings. And one of the things about steel buildings is you can put all the insulation you want, but if the roof is touching, oh, I must hear that Russ is. I'm hearing something faint in the background. It must be your wife's TV or something.
Oh, she's pounding on a piece of chicken, I think.
Nice. No,
Tenderizing.
I heard voices. Well, I'm hearing voices. All right, so what
Over your
happened?
head.
Hang on.
Check your cameras.
Not back here. It's here. Anyway, so what happens is, let's say you have a metal roof. It's absorbing all that radiant heat, and it's radiating. Well, it's basically it's hot. It's transferring all that heat through conduction through all the metal.
Yeah.
One way to eliminate that, or rather eliminate a good portion of it, is aside from attaching radiant heat to the bottom of the tin, put a radiant barrier insulation to prevent the conduction to the trusses. There's still going to be a certain amount, but that's pretty much it. All right, so let me see what else we got here. Way back there. Yeah. Okay, blown insulation on top of butt insulation with a radiant barrier. That's the way to go. That's one of the ways to go. I know what's happening. I know exactly what's happening. I knew I heard something. I hear my voice coming from the phone way across on the other end, which is still on, listening on my show.
I was getting worried.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy. Yeah. I was beginning to doubt my sanity, but that's okay. So, yeah. So let's see. SEER rating, air conditioner, primary dehumidifier. Paul, sorry you're late. Good to see you. And let's see. Where are we? Thank you. Seasonal energy efficiency ratio. And that I know I'm talking way back when, but that is the ratio of in a nutshell, it's a ratio between BTUs and kilowatts. So you're cooling, again, to reiterate, if you're cooling 60,000 BTU and you've got an SEER of 10, you're spending 6,000 watts an hour to cool that 5 tons of air. If you've got a 20, So now remember, it's not linear. It's sort of exponential in a way, or parabolic. It's a 14 from a 10 to a 12 is a considerable savings. From a 12 to a 14, it's a little bit less. 14 to a 6. There's almost no difference between 18 and 20. It's the difference between, let's say if there was an air conditioner that did 10,000 BTU. All right, then if you had let me do that the other way. Let's say let's put it this way. Let me just use actual numbers. Okay, so let's say you got a 4-ton unit at your house. That's 48,000 BTUs divided by, let's say you got a 16 SEER, which is a decent size. So you're looking at 3,000 watts, okay? Whereas that 48,000 BTU, let's say you bumped it up to an 18 divided by 18. You've saved 300 watts an hour. Yeah, it's something, but it's not substantial. Whereas if you have 48,000 and you went from a 10 to a 12, you went from 4,800 to 4,000. You basically saved 800 watts. So the first one you save 800 watts. From a 12 to a 14 you'll save a little bit less, until from a 16 to an 18 you save 300 watts, and from an 18 to a 20, I know I'm going crazy here, but 48,000 divided by 20, I should do this in my head, is 2,400 compared to 20. That's 266. So each notch you're going up, you're saving less and less and less. So there is a point where you have to find your balance. If you're going to pay $3,000 or $4,000 for a 16 SEER, but it's going to cost you double that for an 18, don't get the 18. That's ridiculous. So don't always, unless you won the lotto, then screw it. Throw away your money. What do I care? Because it's still throwing away your money. I don't care how much of it you have. So anyway, let's see. Rock wool is fantastic. Fantastic insulation. Basement shop ceiling. Yep. Hey, Jimbo. How's it going? Again, way behind here, or I think I'm a little behind. Hey, good to see you, Chris. Chris Nealon's here. And let's see here. So again, all these things that Tenderloin. All these things I've been telling you work for cooling as well as heating. And Russ, by the way, you're muted. I don't know if you know that. Okay, just checking. Didn't know if you were gonna say something. So all these things work in reverse for heating as far as cooling. So keep these things in mind. The last thing I'm going to say before I shut off is, check out this wonderful insulation. Now, it's fairly cheap and it's fantastic practice material. Get the one without any layers on it, certainly without the radiant heating if you can. It's nothing more than foam, dense foam, packed styrofoam. It's wonderful if you're going to have an indoor project for CNC. This thing cuts like butter. It's fantastic. It makes a mess, so you better use a dust shoe. But you want something cheap that cuts better than MDF? That's it. You can paint it if you want. You don't have to. And by the way, if you do paint it, use latex paint. Don't use enamel, because on many of these, the enamel solvents will dissolve the bits and pieces of the insulation, and well, that's not good. So that's and they sell other foam products. HDU is what you were searching for. A lot more expensive, but it's high density urethane, and this stuff is fantastic. Available at any box store. It's nice and cheap. You can buy, $9 or $20 or something like that for a 4x8 foot sheet, and easy to cut with a knife. And you can do a lot of practice on your CNC without ruining wood. It's cheaper than MDF. So anyway,
you got it.
Yep. New 16 SE air conditioner are definitely the way to go. Otherwise, you may have to replace your ductwork. Oh, and by the way, folks, speaking of high efficiency air conditioners, some of those split units are 22 SEER and up. Some of those like Mr. Cool, those kind of things. Mm-hmm. Those little, they're only a ton and a half or something like that, or they go up to 2 ton or whatever, and they are more expensive. But again, do your math, because if you have a shop and you're only cooling it, when you're in there, get one of those little things. It's a lot cheaper, and even if you're cooling it all the time, it's a lot cheaper, and it's going to save you a ton of money. Now, folks, next week, for those of you, I'm going to be doing a Vectric. I'm going to be running Vectric, like some of Mark's videos that you'll see, but at a much, much faster pace. And I'll be doing some projects every week for the next few weeks. So hopefully, let me know what projects would you like to see. In fact, if you've got any now, just I'm gonna start probably with say a camper sign. People like camper signs. It's I'm here brushing off. First of all, the mirror makes me brush off the wrong side. Here I'm brushing it off, and there's nothing here. This little piece of what I thought was insulation foam is a tiny piece of yellow dirt on my screen that is now gone. So I hope you guys enjoyed the comedy. But anyway, so like I said, I'm going to do my best to edit the video afterwards, so to give you just the meat of the content. But I'll be walking through the whole process from start to finish for all of you CNC beginners out there that want to learn how to use Vectric to make a simple sign, simple V-carve signs, and then we'll get into the more fancier stuff later. But I'll try to do a project every week. And again, not always CNC. Javi Unboxed, you never know where I'm going to go. Today I did insulation, and the only CNC about it is, hey, it's cheap for
Good practice.
for good practice. So, but short of that, folks, I hope you guys, if you're in the position to purchase more insulation or a better AC and save money, by the way, when I did it, just so you know, I don't recommend anybody getting into debt if they, are not in debt. However, spend your money wisely. I took out a loan. I had excellent credit, took out a loan for $5,000 for the AC. It paid itself off in less than 3.5 years. Instead of paying the electric company those extra $60 a month, I put that entire money as if I wasn't saving any money. You got to be disciplined. But in the end, I got a brand new AC. It had a 10-year guarantee. I mean, even though the other one still had it, brand new AC, and my electric bill went down. And after those 3.5 years, it's all gravy at that point. So spend your money wisely, insulate your house, stay cool, or if you're up there and it's wintertime, stay warm.
Stay warm.
So, folks, I'd like to say goodnight from my cohort and myself, and have a wonderful week. Next week, Vectric, and we'll do some signs.
Vectric on the menu.